Hi, welcome to the 1 Liter Podcast. You will watch us drinking 1 liters of beer whilst talking about shies. Please like and subscribe. Welcome to the 1 Liter.
Prost!
Prost!
Oh, welcome everybody back to the show. Today, my guest is my very own brother from
Mein
the
Bruder.
same mother, mein Bruder.
I'm back in
Mr.
Australia.
David, back in Australia for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah. Just
setting
under.
foot
Yeah.
on Australian
Yeah.
soil.
It's like, I think if you want to count it, it's like 1 year and 11 months or something. So,
Yeah. When did you
Yeah.
leave? What month?
like, it was right after your birthday in November.
Yes. And
Yeah.
now it's
Now it's 1st
Like,
of November.
yeah,
So it's
like
like,
a-
yeah.
almost
It's like 2 weeks off being
Yeah.
2 years. Yeah.
that's wild.
It's crazy.
So what
Wild
about
times.
But you've just been driving around the States.
Mhm.
So, very cool thing. So, David's just done 2 seasons in Canada, the classic ski
Yeah.
season, working at the ski
Mhm.
resort, but not skiing, snowboarding, because that's the cool thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what all the hip kids
That's
do.
what the
like
hip
me.
kids
Yeah.
do. Yep, yep. And then your summer job is what I want to get into on here as
Yeah.
well, because that is crazy. So he's planting trees for his summer job. But for the last couple of months, you've been driving around the States in a van.
Mhm.
Has that been, what was the climate there now for the last couple of months? But because you went like Florida and everything, right?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
hot?
So that's kind of like because I was all around America. So that's like, I've experienced every single climate
Every
it had to
climate.
offer.
Of course.
And because we started like,
Sorry, I'm saying you and your
Yeah,
partner
yeah,
Sophie. You
exactly,
guys were both
exactly.
driving
Me and
around in a
Sophie.
van, yeah.
and we like it's just like a Dodge Grand Caravan, right? So it's like a little soccer mum car, you know? I love it so much because it's so like inconspicuous. You like see it parked at a Walmart and it's just like, it just looks like a little soccer mum car, and then it's got a double bed in the back, you know?
So I'm pretty sure, and I don't know if if we've already discussed this, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's the exact same as what Jeremy, my friend, and I, Jeremy and I hired in the States to also do like the California
like a little bit of a road
drive.
trip. Yeah, I remember this, and it is the same
exact
car,
same van.
Maybe not the year. It was a 2010. I don't know if you remember that from your
Oh,
rental
I've got
one,
no
but-
idea.
Yeah, but pretty much the same car, and they don't change much. Like you see the variants in the years, they're pretty much like the exact same car all around.
Does
but
yours
it's-
have an okay sound system?
Yeah, it works.
Because I remember ours being like, "Oh, this slaps!" Like it
Yeah,
was pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty juicy.
Well, the problem is because my summer job is tree planting, and I'm not just the tree planter, I'm also a driver for a bit of extra cash, right?
Mhm.
So I drive the brand new Ford F-150s and F-350s a lot. And one of the things that I like volunteer for is to drive at like Smithers is like their little headquarters area, which is like in the middle of BC. It's just this tiny little like town in the mountains. And then I drive it down to Vancouver for like 9 hours at the end of the season.
Oh God!
And you're in these cars a lot, and their sound system is like
Really?
top notch, you know, like
these
really
F1
loud, yeah,
fat
like brand
trucks.
new, yeah, these fat trucks with so much space for like giant speakers. And especially when I'm in there alone driving it to Vancouver, I just like play whatever I want at whatever volume I want, you know what I mean?
It's a 9-hour drive,
yeah,
all in one go.
Nah, you're encouraged to take like at least one break.
Mm.
And what they do is they have it completely filled up with fuel, which will bring you to Vancouver pretty much like
Really?
that. Yeah, like
Yeah,
one
I
tank
guess-
of gas. They're all diesel, well, mostly diesel cars. So like one tank, and they're like 100 something liters of
Yeah,
diesel.
yeah.
It's insane. And one tank of gas pretty much brings you straight to the stop in Vancouver where you have to bring it, with like a little bit left. And so they say, if you want to go and like explore a little bit for like a day or two, like they don't want you to like go on a giant Canada road trip with it, but they're like, oh, if you like, for me, they let me go to the mountain in Vernon, right, to like go
got
drop
it.
off my stuff in the room that we had with like that Sophie and I had.
Yeah.
So I went and dropped off all of like my luggage and stuff, and then she followed me to Vancouver in the Dodge, like in our car, and then we went back up with our car, right, from Vancouver. So they're fine with that, but then they say if you're driving too much and you have to fill it up, that's on you.
Which is fine, right?
Yeah.
At least you still get to put the miles on the car.
Exactly.
You just got to pay for the fuel.
Yeah. And so if you want, then you got to pay like $50 of fuel or something, you know.
All right, but now let's get a crash rundown of this tree planting, because when you say, "Oh, tree planting," people are like, "The fuck? You're doing what?"
It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah. What, where, why, when, how?
Hang on, I want to have a drink of this, but
oh yeah, I noticed we cheers and then didn't sip, because it happens to me way too often, because I try to like get the intro out as well, and I'm like, burr, burr, burr.
I noticed I like sat back down and the beer just went down. But yeah, tree planting is like, it's really unique. I'm probably going to do it one last season. And it pays decently well. It's not like the best paying job ever. It's pay per tree, right? So like the more trees you plant, the more money you get.
So really, you're probably better off doing multiple seasons, because you can get a rhythm down.
Yeah, kind of like, and for example, like in my first season, I was not getting it for like the beginning, and I was like not making money. Like my best day was like $100 something. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh.
And then like it starts to click, right? And then I come back this season and I start off, and my first day I make like $200, you know, and then the next day you make like more and more money. And then you like those 3-4 weeks where I wasn't getting it on my first season, I've already made a couple of grand in my second, right? So,
and then, so who are you doing this for and why?
So it's a reforestation company, and they are contracted by the mills. So unfortunately, nothing I've done. They do like regeneration projects sometimes, but nothing that I've done has been regeneration contracts. All of the trees I've planted have been obligation trees, where the government tells a mill that cuts down trees for their wood, for timber or paper or whatever they're making timber. Sorry. Lumber and timber, I just merged together in one word.
Limber.
Yeah, limber.
I like it.
Yeah. The limber, timber, lumber. But the government essentially says you guys have to replant those cut blocks that you've cut down.
Is it X amount? Like,
yeah, they have like a certain amount that they have to do. And so the mill, but it kind of works out for the mill, because the mill gets us to plant the trees that they want to use later on at like the perfect specs that they want. So they have to be straight enough for the mill, for like the products that they want to end up making out of the wood. You know, they have to be planted properly into the soil. Like they want as many of the trees to grow as properly and stuff, right? So they do like check it pretty, like you can't just like willy-nilly just like throw trees on the ground, you know? Like you have to plant them properly. You have to make sure they're like in the soil properly with like no holes in the...
So they'll send someone to like audit.
There's checkers. Yeah, there's checkers that go around, and you have to, if you have to replant, like if you haven't planted good enough, say you have too many, like they have these things called J roots, where like you've got like, there's the tree, because you have like little sapling trees, right? Maybe like this big, like it changes depending on the trees.
This is also what I didn't realize, but you're planting like these tiny little... How long are they?
So a nursery grows them, and then they give them to us. Like at the start of the season, you get frozen ones, and then they thaw by the end of the season. You're doing summer trees and stuff, and it all depends on, like, there's lots of minds at work here that are figuring out like the best time to plant the certain saplings and which soil at what elevations and blah blah blah. And then like there's all these subspecies and stuff. Like people ask me,
so you're planting different types.
Yeah, heaps. And people ask me, well, it's mostly like, it's spruce. There's a bit of balsam, but it's mostly spruce and pine are like the big ones.
Right.
And people ask me, they're like, oh, what kind of like spruce and pine trees? And I'm like, bro, on my end, when I like put them in the bag, I have to tally all of the trees up that I plant, right? Like that's how they end up paying you as well. Like I have to write down how many trees I've put in my bag, and then I go and plant that bag. And on my end, I see like SX 105. And that's a spruce tree, right? And they're like, what type of spruce do you plant? I'm like,
you're like
SX105.
X type?
I don't know what kind of tree.
That's hilarious.
The forester that works for the mill knows what kind of tree it is, but I just put it in the ground, you know?
And and I know nothing about tree types and stuff, but what is like how long are these going to take to become proper trees?
40 to 60 years, and they'll cut them down.
Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are planned to be cut down in the future.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of what I mean. So a regeneration project would be where they go somewhere to like create a forest. But this, like all of the trees that I've planted have a plan. So like a mill will contract us to go plant the trees, plant them at their specs, the specs that they want, right? And then once we've planted them, they'll grow for the next 40 to 60 years-ish. And then when they're ready, like there'll be people going to check them every now and then. When they're ready, they'll send all of the machines back in and just chop them all back down. And there's people that are like, oh, is it even like good for the environment then? And blah, blah, blah. And to that I say a fat hell yeah, it is, because old growth forests, they're the ones that are like really important to the environment and to the ecosystems, right? And we've already cleared these cut blocks. Like they are no longer old growth forests. That's fucked. For that to regenerate to like an actual really good environmental area as an old growth
like
forest,
an ecosystem.
that will take years, like hundreds and hundreds of years, and all of the like undergrowth has to come back and all of the fungi has to come back, and like we would have to be planting lots of more variation of plants and stuff. I actually have a friend from my first season who is doing like only regeneration style projects now, which is really cool. But with us planting these, now the mill isn't looking at as many like old growth forests and stuff to cut down.
That's good.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm planting these trees to save old growth forests from being cut down, because if I didn't plant these trees, the mill will still want wood.
Yeah.
And then they'd go, okay, where can I get it from? And then they'll go and fuck up more forests,
we still
right?
want timber furniture and paper and everything.
It's like the amount of wood products that I don't even like think of and conceive, and like the amount of paper that I use in my lifetime, you know, that all comes from this industry, right? But
couple of things there that I've heard. Things like I've seen these fancy people that like make channels on Instagram or YouTube where they do like fancy furniture and like custom built stuff, which is really cool to watch. But one of them, which I found interesting, says that older furniture that was made from old wood is usually far higher quality because the wood has taken a lot longer to grow. They don't like get help growing. So when you look at the layers in the wood, there's a lot more layers, a lot denser the wood. And then you get these ones that are like potentially probably done by mills where they like speed up the growing process and just feed them as much fertilizer.
Every single tree that I plant is like a GMO tree. Like they have spent generations now, because I'm not like a first generation tree planter, right? There have been years and years, and especially in Canada is a huge industry there. They have had like generations upon generations of tree planters and this whole cycle going, right?
So and these are like the fastest growing trees.
Yeah, the nurseries throughout that time have been figuring out which trees will grow the fastest, which trees will do this and that, and like breeding specific types of trees, just like fruits, right? The strawberries you buy from the store versus strawberries that grow in nature. Nature. Like, and we're
talking like a couple of inches versus less than a centimeter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the nature ones that are less than a centimeter, they're delicious. I love those. They're so good.
The flavor in them. Damn.
We had, when we were on right after my season this year, I was on the mountain with Sophie for a little bit, for like a couple of weeks. And they have strawberries growing on that mountain at that time of year. And so we're like going on walks and looking for them, and oh man, it's so good.
Get them
so
wild
yummy.
strawberries.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other berries you can pick from there as well. It's delicious. There's lots of raspberries, like on the wild tree planting. You find strawberries and raspberries and stuff as well.
Using them as snacks?
Yeah, you can eat them. Yeah.
So the other part of this, which people might not realize at all, and I didn't either, but is the physical element of tree planting.
Back me.
Yeah.
It's hard. And you got to be, your back's bent the entire time. Like,
oh, God. Okay. So you've got like an iron back now.
Yeah. So I'm 27, right? Like, I'm not the youngest kid on the block. but I'm not that
Is
old.
it younger people doing it?
Yeah. There's like
Oh,
a lot.
younger?
Most of like the people starting up are like 19, 20, you know. Like especially like the Canadians, like they'll go in it young a lot of them when they're at school,
Mhm.
like they'll do school throughout the winter, and then in their summer holidays they'll do 3 months of tree planting and pretty much pay for the rest of their year,
Mhm.
you know, and then they don't have to work while doing school. That's like kind
Nice.
of a cycle a lot of people are in with that. There's a lot of ski bums like me that do
Mhm.
tree planting and then go
Mhm.
and do a ski season, or just like some people make enough planting where they don't even work for the ski season.
Yeah.
They just go and live on a mountain.
That's sick.
Yeah.
There's so much more snowboard
right?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way more. I was talking to a crew boss, so they're like they manage a group of tree planters, right? Manage a crew. And I was talking to a crew boss at the start of my season this season, and he was saying that like throughout his winter, that last winter, he went to the States and he had like his van with the bed set up and stuff. And you can get a ski pass in the Rocky Mountains in the States, which I forget the exact like details of this, but it's like something along the lines of you get to spend like 3 days at a ski resort across like hundreds of ski resorts in the Rocky Mountains
Oh.
throughout the entire winter. So you get like 3 days here, and once your 3 days are up there, like once you've used your pass 3 times there, you can't use it there anymore, but you can use it at all of these other ski resorts. So he was just going around all of the mountains in the
That's
Rocky
sick.
Mountains, like going to all these different ski resorts. And he's like a highballing crew boss, right? All of his crew makes money, and the crew bosses are the same. It's like pay per tree. So they get paid. So if I get like 20 cents for a tree, my crew boss will get something like 8 cents for that tree, right? And then the more that I plant and the more that my crew plants, the more money he makes as well. And
Yeah.
and that guy was making a lot of money. He had a really good crew.
Yeah. So just on the fitness portion
Yeah.
of it, because you're just trotting through vast areas of land,
Yeah.
and planting trees, bending over.
Uh-huh.
So, because I remember after your first season, your fitness levels.
Uh-huh. So
yeah,
I'm just going to interject here because
Yeah.
I did like the park run with our mum quite a bit, and I'd run the 5Ks, and I knew it because I knew I needed to do more cardio. Like I went to the gym quite a lot, but I was like, I need to get more cardio in my exercise. I was running 5K and I couldn't crack 30 minutes for a really long time. And then I did it with JB one time and I cracked under 30, like just with him pacing me. And that was like my goal before leaving Canada. So I was stoked with that. And that was 5K and that was hard. Like he's talking to me the entire time and I was like, I just have to run. Like I can't think about doing anything else to keep up with you.
That's how I did my fastest time too.
Yeah.
But
And,
mine was like a 32 or something.
Yeah. But then I did tree planting, right? And then in like my off time, because I did kind of a road trip after my first season as well, but I first went to Tofino, which is like on Vancouver Island. It's like this nice beach stretch that they have in Canada. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to run a little bit. And then I just started running on the beach and I was running and I was running and I was running. And then I was 9Ks in and I already ran the entire beach stretch and like a little bit back. And I was like, oh, I'm going to call mum. Tell her that I've been running real well. And it was like, it was just,
Did you work out your pace or anything? Was it?
On that one, like I can look back on my Samsung Health, but it was like probably around that 6 minute-ish mark per kilometer, which would have gotten like just to 30 minutes for a 5K, but I ran 9Ks.
And just
was
like chilling.
Yeah. And I was exhausted because it was 9Ks of running, right? But it was nothing like the 29-minute 5K that I did with Jeremy, right? Because I was like, oh God, I can't even think. And here I was like smiling at the people going by me, just like, just like running along. That's his barefoot on the beach.
On sand. Yeah. Fucking hell.
And that's when I was like, that tree planting made me a lot fitter than I was.
So then you're like, I better start doing fast food.
And then I kept running. And then I rated all the fast food in America.
Eating fast food in America.
But yeah, and then I did second season tree planting. That's really good fun. And it's like, I feel like the second season felt less physically demanding than my first season because kind of like I knew what to train to come up to it properly. And Like I knew what was expected from me. I knew how to plant good trees properly and how to do it quickly already. Like I've gotten better now as well, but just because I knew all of that, like it was less of a learning curve. And then like I already knew how to get into it more ergonomically and stuff to be better for your back and better for your elbow and shoulder and all that. So,
so you've probably fine-tuned your technique, but also I feel like it's also probably a perspective thing because you're probably going in going, this is going to be hard work.
Yeah.
Last time was hard. And so your expectation is here from your memories. And then you're like, actually, I'm good. I'm good. I'm sweet.
Yeah. Nah, but it is grueling work. Like it's, while you're there, you're never kind of like, oh, this is so fun, you know, because you're like out there, like no matter what the weather is and stuff, like with some exceptions, you're like out there in the thunderstorms and in the rain and like you're out there in the blistering heat and you're just like, you have to go because if you slow down, you're making less money. So why are you even there? You know, so you're just like constantly like in that go mindset. A lot of people have like a military style thinking about it and stuff, like kind of like David Goggins-esque.
Got your playlist specifically
I got to
planting
get
trees.
you to get me like a real hard playlist going. But that's just like, I also like, and it depends on the day because I also sometimes put my podcast on. I really like listening to this like comedy podcast.
1 Liter podcast. I get it.
Yeah, the 1 Liter podcast as well. But this guy's got a way bigger backlog.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he just like does deep dives on like history and like eras and stuff and like different like topics and all that. Like each week he'll like just deep dive into a topic and he puts his little comedic spin on it.
See, I love that because I've told you before, I'd love to get this a little bit more into the like exploration path rather than just the light-hearted chats.
Yeah. Well, maybe have a look at him. It's called Time Suck. It's
Time Suck.
Yeah. It's good. And you have to kind of like get into it a little bit because especially in the first episodes, he's still like finding his groove because it was just like a little experiment of his to start. And then he like, I'm in like the 300th episode now and he's like really found his groove, right? Yeah. But I like chuck that on sometimes, and like I especially chuck that on like we had a overgrown block this time, and it was like this contract, the land there's no road access, so it like the entire month is just like all helicopter work.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I was a bit jelly.
Yeah,
it's
pretty cool.
Helicopters
but
around.
I was telling Sophie this like after like a week of doing only heli work, so after like 6 days of being in the heli, you kind of get over it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just like so much stress, so much noise. Like you're sitting there and the helicopter comes down, it's blasting dirt and wind at you every single day. You're like, oh, fucking hell, I have to do this again. But it is like, when you look back on it now, it's
How
prime.
many flights would
So
you do?
cool.
Like, are you going
usually just 2 per day, right? So you fly in, plant, fly out.
So you take all the trees you're going to plant for that day on the flight?
Well, basically sometimes, but usually what they do is they'll have like a big block, right? And they split that up into pieces that they give you. So like you have the map and they go, okay, so this little square is your piece and you have to follow that tree line. And then you got to like kind of figure out, okay, that's where I'm planting. Then like you cut your line, and I'm just putting a lot of tree planter mumbo jumbo out there and stuff.
Yeah.
But you end up basically cutting the land with the amount of trees that you think you're going to plant that day, like that. And your crew boss will kind of like work that out as well. They'll go, oh, he usually plants this amount of trees. So you're going to
be working yourself a parameter.
Yeah, and you usually plant with a partner. So like you'll have 2 people going into like this section of the land, 2 people going into that section of the land, and they fly you into this big block. And like on our days off, the helicopters and like the crew bosses and stuff, because the crew bosses never get a day off, the crew bosses, they'll like organize getting the trees flown in to that block. And then when we get
on
there,
a separate flight.
Yeah. And then when we get there, the trees are usually just like all piled there already, with like some exceptions. You know, it varies. It's a very like, it's all weather dependent. It's all, you know, there's like a lot of factors that go into it and stuff, all logistics. Like you only have 2 helicopters, you know, for the entire time, you know, like the company can't just afford to rent out like 6 helicopters to do stuff all the time. You know, they're expensive. They were telling us like,
I would expect
they were telling us like the importance of like being on time for helicopters, because they're like, if the helicopter's in the air for like a minute longer, that's like this many grand out of our pocket.
Yeah. So they're just hiring the pilot and helicopter in
they
the package.
The way that my company does it is they like work together with a a helicopter company
Mm.
that like hires out the
Got it.
pilots and helicopters, right? So that their helicopter company like employs the pilot, and then we need 2 helicopter pilots.
Yeah.
And then they have like, they'll rotate, like it's not always the same pilot because the pilots have like a mandatory, like after they've worked for 2 weeks, they have to have like a week off or something like that,
Got
like
it.
according to law.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it got stricter as well. Canada has like quite strict laws on like how long they can work for within a day and stuff like that. I assume all just for safety because it's
Similar
pretty,
to like truck drivers, but
Yeah.
probably more extreme
yeah,
again.
because it's like, not to say anything against truck drivers, but I feel like helicopter flying is a bit more extreme than driving a truck on the highway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Funny side note, because Em used to work at the airport, so she got really interested in like flights and flight paths and flight tracking, and she's got this app, and I think it's free.
Yeah.
But it basically tells you what flights are flying where, so it's a map. So
I imagine it's free.
Yeah, so every time like a helicopter goes by, I'm like, what's that? Is that a private? And she'll get her app out and she'll be like, privately owned.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine it's free because
private.
most of that information you can find online as well if you like know where to look.
Yeah.
And so they probably just like
I'm assuming
pull it all
it's-
from sources.
Yeah,
that
I'm
they
assuming
already
it's
know.
just an app version of some website, right?
Yeah, exactly.
that
It's
you
kind of
can
like that,
track.
kind of like that stocks website, right? Where they just like pull information so that you don't have to do the research.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, tree planting from an outsider, us being here in Australia, the country where everyone thinks every animal kills you, but we're
Yes.
like, oh, you're planting trees in Canada. Talk to me about bears. What's going on with it?
Bears are pretty chill.
What
Bears
is?
are chill.
Yeah, bears are chill. I get that, but you hear like,
Okay, so
this person was running, he got fucking mauled by a bear, he's dead. And when you're
wouldn't you hear that?
when
Nah, it's
it's a real thing, but it's like obviously a super rare thing. Just like people coming here, they think, I'm going to get eaten by a shark. Are you going to swim in a beach? No. Well, then you're not going to get eaten by a shark.
Are you going to swim in the beach while the shark sirens are going off?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You're going to get eaten by a shark.
Yeah. Are you going to swim in like dusk when the shark's looking for some fucking snacky dinner? No.
But-
okay.
Yeah.
So bears, but
Mhm.
I want to know, what is the brief you guys get? Because if you're
Yeah,
going in,
yeah.
were you like, bears
Yeah,
at
kind
the
of.
start?
So black bears are chill. Like
Yep, heard
you
that.
do still want to like scare them off so they're not around because they can like if
If they wanted to.
Yeah, if they're huge, dude. Like if then they could
And they
mess you up.
strong.
Yeah, they could mess you up, but they're chill and they're usually like scaredy cats. So you make loud noises, you like bundle up together, and they walk away. We had a few bear encounters this season, like black
bears.
bear encounters, and they're pretty chill. Like you just like make the loud noises, and they'll kind of like be on their way. Grizzlies. So then there's brown bears, which I have never seen, and they're like kind of in the middle between grizzlies and black bears.
Okay.
Like they're a bit more territorial. And
Do they
aggressive
look
than the
like
brown bears.
grizzlies?
They look more like black bears, but with
Browner.
with bigger and with browner fur. But they don't really talk about those. That's grizzlies. That are they're the no. You don't want to mess
So
with
what's
the
your
grizzly.
brief on
The brief-
if the rare
The brief that we get is curl up in a ball. Like if a grizzly is approaching you and you've bear sprayed it and it's still not backing off, you curl up in a ball. And we like they have test bear sprays to like make sure we know how to use the bear spray as well. Like they have like it's a safety precaution for the company. But you curl up in a ball like fetal position with your hands around the back of your neck. So you're covering up all of your front organs. You're covering up your neck. And then the grizzly will likely like start playing with you and messing with you and like sniffing you out. But this is what they say. They'll usually get bored because they're not really hunters, right? Bears are much more like scavenger style eaters. They'll look for carrion that a wolf pack has maybe hunted down, and then they'll fight off the wolf pack and eat their prey, right? And so they'll play with you a little bit. They'll go, nah, don't want to eat that. They'll probably piss on you, and then they'll be on their way.
Piss on you?
And you'll have a couple of grizzly bear scratches on you, and that's like best case scenario if a grizzly's coming up to you. Well, best case scenario is it decides to go the other way, but
Yeah. So it's never
The-
like make noise towards a grizzly?
Nah, grizzly is like, yeah, you bear spray it, and if it doesn't go away, you're pretty much fucked. You just
What is the bear spray?
race. It's just capsaicin. So it's the stuff that makes chilies hot.
It's like pepper spray.
Yeah, it's just pepper
Yeah,
spray.
okay.
It's like when you look at the ingredients, it's like some spray agents and stuff, to like help
Yeah.
it stay in the bottle and all that. And then it's just capsaicin, which
Yeah.
is the spicy stuff in chilies.
Because I've heard the stories from because when Jeremy was becoming a correctional officer, they did pepper
Full in
spray.
the eyes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, dude,
hate
like
that.
it sounds.
It's like, you know how they
horrific.
say don't touch your eyes when you're eating hot stuff?
Yeah.
And then they just get that sprayed in their eyes directly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But apparently it
No,
does
thank
way
you.
more than just the eyes, right? You
Yeah,
st-
of
like
course.
you
Yeah,
struggle
you'd
to
start-
breathe
yeah,
and
you'd
you're just
start, like-
leaking everywhere.
Yeah, your nose would start leaking. Well, that's the thing. You eat something really hot, the same kind of stuff
Yeah.
happens. Your nose starts leaking. You can't breathe properly. It would be the similar if you get it sprayed on your.
See, because that scares the shit out of me, but it's probably the same rationale as a shark, right? What are your chances, first of all, encountering?
Yeah.
Secondly, if you do encounter that very rare chance, you're like,
Yeah.
it's up to this animal.
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen one grizzly in my.
You've seen one?
in my first season.
Oh, fuck.
From the car, I was driving back, it was a town day. So like every now and then you get to go into town. And because I'm one of the drivers, I drive in and I get a bit of compensation for it. So I was driving back and it was like an hour-long drive back to camp.
By yourself?
No, with like the
Oh, yeah,
people. Like
crew,
the whole car has to be full
Yeah.
if you're going into town. So with my crew, I'm driving back and we see like a bear in the distance on the dirt road. And we're kind of like, that's not a black bear. Its fur's too brown. Is it a brown bear? It doesn't look big enough to be a grizzly. So we're kind of like, because we can see it like a fair while away. It's a pretty straight road. We're like, what is that? Like, what kind of bear is that? Is it a brown or a grizzly? We're still like half an hour away from camp, so it's not that close. And then as we get closer, it turns around and you can see the like shoulder humps, which is like the telltale sign
it?
for a grizzly. That's like how you tell. You can see on the paw prints. I forget the exact details, but you can see on the paw prints they're different, and like they look a lot bigger just to start with, but they have like these humps on their shoulder
Huge.
blades, kind of, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like these shoulder blade humps that come out, and that determines a grizzly bear. And so I assume because it didn't seem big enough for a grizzly bear, I assume it was maybe like an adolescent grizzly bear or something, It was just chilling on the side of the road and then just like walked away and we didn't get like a super close look at it.
Yeah.
But that was my one ever encounter of seeing a grizzly bear.
Because have you seen videos of grizzly fighting grizzly?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
it is rough. It
I
is
imagine.
gruesome
Yeah.
because they.
And they can
obviously-
take a hit too.
Yeah, that's
so-
what I mean.
yeah.
That's probably the main thing that
Yeah,
surprised me
They just
because
keep going.
because they're grabbing each other
Mhm.
with the teeth by the scruff and just pulling, and like their skin
Chunks
is just
come off
Yeah, but
and-
it's so strong as well.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
they're not putting big holes in each other. It's
Yeah,
just they're
yeah.
so tough
True.
that it's like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're like, oh god,
Oh,
dude.
Yeah, it's messed up. It kind of this reminds me of something a little comedic. The emu wars in Australia, in
Emu
Western
wars?
Australia. Have you heard of this?
No,
Oh man, you got to look into this a little bit. It's hilarious.
what
I
is
don't
this?
know all the details, but it's very well documented in Western Australia. Sometime like after World War I or World War II, I forget which one. They farmers were having a big problem with emus.
Mm.
The emus were like breaking into their fences and like eating their crops and damaging their crops. And then because they broke the fences, other animals would come in and
Yeah.
mess with the farmers' crops. So they were like, something needs to be done. They get in contact with the government and the government goes, you know what? We're going to send some military after these emus. And then to make a long story short, after like all these like different, like you can get into all the details and like blah, blah, blah. But they essentially have like a Jeep with a mounted machine gun and they're shooting at emus with like 50 caliber bullets. And no emus die because their skin is too thick and their feather coating is too thick. Like they get injured, but they just run away and then they run away at like 70 kilometers an hour,
God damn.
And so we lost the emu wars. The emus won.
That bird is just
Yeah,
running away at car
This
speed
ancient dinosaur, yeah.
over like rough terrain
getting
where you
shot at.
where your
like-
tires
yeah,
like
yeah, exactly. And the Jeep's probably like dun, dun, dun.
Dude, I feel like
It's
we
insane. Maybe one or two emus die.
Oh, of course, of course.
But like it's
I feel like we underestimate, or movies make us underestimate 50 caliber guns, though. Holy shit, dude.
those things are strong.
Like those action movies, and
Yeah.
someone grabs out a 50 cal and he's like dives behind this little wall. I'm like, dude,
That wall is gone.
that shit goes through walls.
Yeah.
That shit's cuts through walls
50
like
cals
paper.
were made against tanks. They
Yeah.
were designed to be able to pierce original tank armor. Like
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's so rough.
that was the first thinking when they made those. They're like this big, dude.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, that shit rips through
Yeah.
anything.
I mean, the thing that gets
Except-
shot isn't that big, but still, when you have a bullet that big, like
Yeah. It rips through anything
Yeah.
except emus, right?
yeah, it's
Emus
fucked.
like,
yeah. No, I imagine it like gets lodged because they've got like thick leathery skin after the fur as well. You know, after not the fur, the feathers. It just like and like
Can't
gets
imagine it
lodged
being
in.
pleasant.
Not at all. They maybe break some bone or something, but
Have you seen the emus
Um,
that get like, when they, I think it's excitement,
Mm.
like the ones that like humans feed or something,
Right.
and then, or maybe they're Zoom ones, and they
Right.
get really excited and they do this thing with their head where they flick their head and they're
Oh.
like running around.
have I seen it, Philip? I have a story for you. Just a
Here
little
we
one.
go.
So I got some really good friends up in Darwin, right?
Mm.
And one of my really good friends there, Reese, his dad, he has like this property up there where he just has a bunch of animals. Like it's just like kind of, he's like a big animal guy. It's kind of a hobby for him. He also has like a room with like a bunch of like aquariums with spiders and snakes in them and
Oh,
stuff.
wow,
He's just like
okay.
a big animal guy, right?
Yeah.
And so he's got these like outdoor pens with a bunch of animals and like pigs and like all these Norman chickens and blah, blah, blah. And then an emu.
One emu.
And yeah, and I went through and I was like looking at them, and to like look at the other pens, you kind of have to be in the emu enclosure for some reason, just how it's designed. And they were like, "Oh, the emu's fine. It's like it's not going to do anything." But I get in there, and the emu's kind of like looking at me, and it's not fully grown, so it's kind of like just above my head height, and it's looking at me, right? And then it goes, "Huh, huh." Huh?
It's moving its head like
and it's
above
like-
your
and
head.
it's, and it's like looking
Down
at me
to,
from
like,
the top,
crotch
and then,
height.
and then goes down to like nearly my ankles, and it's like kind of like sizing me up, and I was getting so uncomfortable. I was like, this thing wants to beat me up, bro. Like,
Dude, that's
I want to
weird
get
as.
out of here.
That's weird.
Yeah. Emus are freaky. Emus have scared me ever since I was young because I have this very clear memory of going through like a zoo or something,
Mm.
or like maybe one of the sanctuaries or something. But it was when I was pretty little. We went to like some kind of like zoo sanctuary
In
area with
Australia,
animals.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had like I don't know if it was emu or ostrich. Same kind of bird, really.
Yeah.
But it had an enclosure for them. And I was like, where are they? And then I look up and there was an emu just looking down at me like this. And I'm this little kid. I was like, ah!
Oh, God.
And ever since then, emus have freaked me out.
Fucking dinosaurs.
Yeah. Little big dinosaur
Big.
birds.
Big dinosaur
Oh,
bird.
Funny things.
Now, obviously, with your Canada trip,
Uh-huh.
2 years running now, and you're going to go back and do
Mhm.
another season.
Mhm.
Obviously, living like
Back
the
for round 3, baby.
yeah,
Mhm.
obviously living the young Australians' dream.
Mhm. Have to.
And you did it. Our sister did it as
Yeah.
well. Jackie did
Yeah.
it. She did it a bit younger, right?
Yeah, a bit younger, and she did like 1 season, and then Nick did 2.
Yeah.
And-
So
but I've loved it, and like I kind of the workplace that I'm in, I like work in a cafe,
Mhm.
and it was all new employees, like because it was right after COVID when I did it, because I couldn't. Like I wanted to get my visa before COVID, but then lockdowns
Didn't
hit and
work,
stuff,
yeah.
blah blah blah. We all know that story. And then lockdowns lifted. I went, and we were all like new employees, and just all of us just got along pretty much instantly.
that's great.
And now we're all really good friends, and we're all coming back. Well, not all, but like a lot of us are coming back for the 3rd season, like got our visas extended and stuff. So it's just like, I just kind of like landed in the perfect spot for it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's sick.
yeah.
And you went to the same. You went to Silver Star, which is
Yeah.
the same resort that
Same mountain, yeah.
Jackie went to, which is super cool. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
have anything to
it's-
compare it against, but it's just
pretty
so
dope.
cool.
I really like it because it's not quite huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
That's
it's
exactly
a bit,
why it's
it's
good.
a bit smaller, and then especially when you're working there, it's kind of like you get like Christmas and you get New Year's and you get like Family Day, which is like a big holiday in Canada, which happens in like January. And you get like the holidays and it gets busy. But then when the holidays like aren't really on, it gets really quiet. And like you have like runs to yourself on a lot of days.
That's so
or like
cool.
to you and your 2-3 friends that you're out with, you know, and like it's really cool. Like and I feel like when you go to like, especially if you go to like Europe, for example, you would never get that. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Europe is like you have like 100 people, long lines everywhere, and
But
every
even like the
single
bigger
lift.
ones, like Whistler,
Yeah,
you'd never
and
get that.
like Big White, Whistler, you know, you never really get that. They're just too big.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And like I've been there
Mhm.
twice
Yeah.
now just for a visit.
Yeah.
So very short visits, but a super cool place. But like I've always thought, I'm like, do I have FOMO here? And then I'm like, I don't know if it would be my thing. Like,
I'm loving it, man.
yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
but like, and I think this would obviously be, this wouldn't be such a thing if I was there for a long period and practicing and
Yeah.
stuff. But because I've had such a short
Yeah.
stint of snowboarding, I'm like,
And then
this is exhausting. And then, yeah, no, it wasn't a black, was
Yeah,
it?
it was that.
Which
It was
one?
you might remember it when I explain it a little bit. So we were going down a blue on one part of the mountain, and then
Where it got the very-
and then the very end of it just went super steep. That end bit is a black called mine shaft, and it was my mistake.
I didn't realize. I probably realized at the time, but
yeah.
that makes a lot of
And
sense.
you were like,
This was the one where it was
"This is
like,
so steep. Oh God. And you're like on your bum the entire time.
yeah, this is the one where it was like steep.
Yeah.
But the thing that freaked me out more, it was steep and then there was no like runoff. It was like a tiny bit of ledge and then it just went into trees. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I just go down speedily, I'm just going to overshoot and end up in trees.
Yeah, yeah. That was honestly my bad because I didn't know that part of the mountain well enough. I thought I knew it better when I took you down there. And then we
But-
ended up on the bottom of the black. At least it was short.
It was short.
At least you didn't get to the top of like a full black run. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But it was short and
Yeah.
like you make it down, it's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly.
But I still hurt myself on a mini little
Yeah.
jump. But
Yeah, I remember
that's
that.
all
That's
my
unfortunate.
well, that's all my
Yeah.
fault as well because, and like when I went to the physio afterwards, because it was my shoulder,
yeah.
and he said, you haven't actually torn anything
Mhm.
in the shoulder.
Yeah.
It's where your bicep muscle attaches inside the shoulder. And because every time I fall backwards, you go like this,
Right. It like
you're hyperextending your
Yeah.
bicep. So then you're fatiguing it.
yeah.
And then I did one that was too big
Yeah,
and I
and then
stretched it slightly too much. And then it was like,
It's crazy that like that hurts the shoulder, right? That always fascinates me, that kind of stuff with
Yeah.
the human body, like how really interconnected it is. You know what I mean?
but it makes sense. Like
Yeah,
your bicep has to
definitely.
connect there. Otherwise, you're not doing this
Exactly.
movement.
Like it needs to have a connection here and a connection up here. It makes perfect sense.
Have you ever
but-
done or had needling done?
No.
So
No.
it's not acupuncture.
Yeah.
I mean, they use similar needles, but it's
Yeah.
like more because acupuncture is like targeting the energy lines of your body and
Mhm.
stuff. It's a bit more. It's a bit more to some people. They might go, "Oh, it's a bit more woo woo," you know,
Right,
because you're
yeah, yeah.
targeting energy lines of the body and
it's
blah
like,
blah blah.
It's like alternative.
Yeah,
like
whereas-
more alternate medicine style.
Yeah. Whereas
thinking,
dry needling, they call it, is more of the we're going to stick a needle in the physical end of where the muscle meets the like the joint and stuff and your cartilage and but they go deeper with those and it
Right.
feels like you're getting corked and like
Ooh,
something's inside
Weird.
your
Well,
joint and you're
something
like,
is
"Oh, God."
inside.
Yeah, but it's like this tiny needle and
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, what the fuck's going on?"
Yeah.
And then afterwards you literally feel like someone's just punched you in that joint and you're
Right.
super like floppy
yeah,
and weak.
because they just like get into that nerve, I guess, right?
But it was that shoulder injury where
Mhm.
he was like, "All right, put your hand like
Mhm.
behind you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's fucked."
Mhm.
And he did the needling, and then afterwards, I had like more mobility in my right shoulder than I ever had before, and I was like,
Crazy,
"This
right?
is weird."
Yeah.
So I'm
it's
like,
insane.
I need to just
I'm-
do this more often.
I'm really curious as to what like medical advancements we'll have seen, and because like we know a lot now, but there's more, way more, much more that we do not know.
Oh yeah,
And that's like in any field of science. If you like go into a field of science, you quickly realize that we do know a lot, but there's way more stuff we have no idea about, right?
Mm.
And I'm really interested in what kind of like medical insights people figure out within like the next 50 years or so, you know what I mean?
Oh.
Like given a good period of
Big
time
time.
for people to like actually, oh, I think this might work, you know, scientific method style, and then more people test it and like figure out, oh, this does actually work, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. Like we're gonna, if our human species keeps going in that direction, we're gonna be smart motherfuckers at some point. Like-
And it's wild because like all of this stuff that we think is fact is just someone having a hypothesis,
Mhm.
testing it, and then going, this works, and then delivering it confidently.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Well,
oh yeah, that's how it
yeah.
works. But there's
And
so
well-
many
Well,
nuances.
fact is also like a very layman terminology, I find, because I did like, and this is mostly from my, like, I'm not a science major or anything by any league at all. I'm just very interested in the sciences. And I did chemistry in high school, and I was very interested in my science subjects. And one of the lessons I remember pretty early on was like, oh, we don't use the term fact when we're talking about scientific method. Everything's a hypothesis, and it's either a proven hypothesis or an unproven hypothesis. The difference is a proven hypothesis is like something like gravity, for example. Like right now, the proven hypothesis for gravity is Einstein's theory of gravity, which has to do with his general relativity thing and all of that. And before that, it was Newton's theory of gravity, which was really good at describing a lot of things, but it's not quite as good at describing everything compared to Einstein's. And Einstein's isn't completely complete either. It's just no one else has been able to formulate a better, more solid hypothesis. So currently his is the proven hypothesis, because every time someone tries to unprove it, it doesn't work, you know? And that's where, like, so Einstein's is now fact as layman term, right?
In quotations, yeah.
So Einstein's is the proven hypothesis, because when scientists now go, oh, let's, you know, study gravitational waves and see if, because that's something Einstein's theory predicted, which he never saw, but his mathematics predicted gravitational waves, which is essentially like, kind of like an easy way to think of it is like light waves come out of the sun and shoot out light that we can see with our eyes. And then because it's such a big mass, let's take a black hole, for example, instead of sending out light, and everything that has gravity kind of does this, it sends out like gravitational waves, right? And he had no way to detect those. And I'm not going to pretend like I know how they're doing it now, but some smart guys figured out how to detect gravitational waves, and they see them, and that's exactly what Einstein described. And so we go, okay, he was a bloody genius. Like, he saw something in math on paper and figured out this has to exist, and we can prove now that it exists with instruments, right? Like,
Yeah, and this is what's so wild to us, because and it's just like the way our brains work. Like we grow up with one taught perspective of things, and then we think anything outside of that is an impossibility, and then you have to, like,
it's almost like confirmation bias, right? That's the trouble with confirmation bias.
Then you have to like get taught this other thing, like even just the fact that you're saying it's gravitational wave, you're like, how's that a wave? Like, it's a thing where a large object pulls in other objects in a vacuum space.
And now we have a way to like detect it by reading something that it shoots out. Like,
it's fucking weird.
It's insane. And like, I'm not going to pretend to know it any more than I've described there, because it's like, if you get someone that studies it and like works in a lab that actually detects them, they'll be like, oh, bro, you're fucking explaining it for sure. But like, that's...
And we're such smart, but such fucking feeble little creatures that
it's crazy, right?
That like someone has to like devote their life to this one topic, and then they can maybe figure out something slightly new.
Every now and then you get someone like Einstein, who just goes, it works in my head. I can see it. I can write it. And it's crazy, right? I'm a big fan of Einstein. He's probably
we all should be, right?
He's probably like top dog for me in any of the science field. Like there's other cool people, you know, like like Stephen Hawking's pretty recently. He was pretty top dog, but like Einstein lived like over 100 years ago and created theories that we still cannot completely disprove. That's pretty impressive. Like,
And like with the limited tools that he had back then.
He just knew. He kind of just he had the thought for it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And he talks about this. He went into like, because I've done like just like a lot of say like layman research into Einstein, you know, just because I'm like interested in his life a little bit. And he has this thing where he says that he like put himself into like a meditative state so that he could pretend to be a photon and then like think about how the universe looks from that perspective. And that's kind of like how he would kind of process how these phenomena would work. And he's the one who like determined the speed of light, for example, that we currently still cannot disprove. Like the speed of light is like 299 something thousand meters per second.
There's no way to prove that.
And there's no way to properly prove it. But what we can do is we can shoot a laser beam out at a mirror and have a sensor next to it, and it gets shot out there and here, and we can track how long that takes. And as we have better and better technology, we can track that to more and more accuracy. And it just keeps showing that his mathematical figuring out of it is pretty much 100% accurate. Like, if not 99%, you know, like, which is pretty crazy for someone who could not shoot a laser at a mirror with a sensor on the other side and see how long that would take. He just looked at paper and went, oh, these numbers make sense together.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Brian Cox and how he articulates things, but it was an interesting one because you can skew your brain about trying to think about how like speed of light and space and time works. But an interesting way, which I hadn't heard of it be articulated this way, he's like, the closer you get to speed of light, he said it shrinks distance. So rather than saying like it slows down time, he just said the faster you get to speed of light, the smaller distances become. So then when you think about like shooting a spacecraft at the Andromeda Galaxy at close to the speed of light, the distance will shrink, which means you can travel it in maybe like a week. Yeah. But then he's like, but you'll never be able to return because as you do that same trip back, 4 billion years would have passed on Earth. Yeah.
I love the idea of time dilation. It like occupies my mind way more than it should.
And I'm and I try to watch videos where I'm like, please make this make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I watch videos of like, you've seen the experiment of someone has a little light in their hand and they bring it up and down and then they move the person with the chair, bring it up and down, and you watch like the wave, the travel wave. And that's how they explain like how a moving subject will experience time differently to a stationary subject. And I'm like, please brain, just understand it, because like, I know I'm clever enough to understand the theory, but I'm very much a person that has to have it in my mind.
Yeah, you want to be able to like actually like really grasp it and visualize it properly.
I want to be able to visualize it, and I'm like, it's not happening because I seem to struggle with this extra dimension in my head.
Well, that's the thing, because it doesn't really match up with our experience, right? Our experience is almost too basic for that kind of science. Like, because we in a day-to-day human life, you would never, ever, ever have anything to do with time dilation. So why would we evolve senses or, you know, like thought patterns to be able to understand it?
But because we're these creatures that are stupidly hyper aware of our mortality, it is a thing where we think about like, what the fuck happens, you know, once we no longer exist. And that's when you can think like, holy shit, like what if your consciousness, whatever it is, then suddenly can understand what it means to not live time in a linear fashion, and you just become this fucking thing that is just like experiences all of time at once. And then you're like, my human brain can't comprehend this because my human brain is a thing that is
be born and then die.
It is a thing that is a linear piece of flesh. So like, it's wild. So that's why
kind of crazy.
I'm the kind of person that's like, I need to be able to visualize this, but it's impossible.
I cannot do it properly. But I feel like that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy just like, because I'm not going to pretend that I like would want to like academically go and figure out these like, and like actually properly in-depth learn these like scientific theories and stuff. But I like watching like YouTube videos about them and like reading about them if like someone makes a discovery and stuff like that. Because, and this is why I enjoyed science in school, I have this like really strong visual interpretation, like visual imagination in my head, so much to a point that like a lot of my thinking has no like dialogue. Like I don't have much of an internal monologue that a lot of people seem to have, because I just like see things happen in my head
I think I'm very much the same.
Rather than like describing something in my head, I just like see it happen. And like it
That's
helps.
why I need to understand it like that.
And like for practical senses, it helps me a lot with like if I need to like figure out how like something will like knots. I'm really good at taking apart knots because I see the knot, and then my brain just like I look at it like this, and then my brain can like see how that looks in the whole 3D world. Like I can see the back of it in my imagination, and I can like figure out which side needs to be pulled. You know, just like that as a basic example of what I'm trying to explain there. So because I have this like quite strong visual imagination in my head, I've always been pretty good at like once I understand a concept like properly, I can like see how it would work in my head, if that makes sense, right? And then that goes back to like if we bring it back to say like time dilation or something, I can kind of like almost like that Einstein meditation, I can kind of like in my head go, oh, that makes sense. If I was like moving at the speed of light, everything would like squish up and be way closer to me. And then if time is space and I can get through space quicker, then it slows down time for me to someone that is not moving at my speed, right? Like that just like, I can just like see that happen in my head, you know, once I understand it well enough, you know what I mean? And then in school, for example, I'd be like, fuck yeah, I want to learn science because that is cool stuff to think about. Like,
yeah. And for me, this is why because obviously we're not scientists, we're not spending hundreds and hundreds of hours researching something. So then when I'm trying to quickly grasp something,
you try to, and then you choose time dilation as something to quickly grasp.
But that's why like I'll watch like all these different videos of different ways of people trying to visually represent it.
Yeah.
And then at least one of those will kind of make,
and sometimes two of them click a little bit.
Exactly.
And you can kind of, and that's the beauty with learning and teaching, right? Because you can only ever teach really how you understand something. And you, as a good teacher, you can apply yourself to understand something in multiple ways to be able to teach it more thoroughly to multiple people, like to different kinds of people. But you can only really ever teach something the way that you understand it, right? That's the only way you can really describe and explain something to someone.
I feel like a great teacher with experience would have like, would take into account how students have clicked, and then be like, some people like to visualize it this way.
Exactly.
Some people like
and just like from me noticing teachers who I enjoy teaching me versus people who I don't enjoy. The people that I don't enjoy are people that can't do that kind of just like lecture at you and don't, then you go to ask them a question and they just repeat the same thing to you. And it's like, no, but I clearly don't understand it the way you're telling it to me. And so a really good teacher, like you said, is someone that will then listen to what you have to say and will be able to go, even if I can't tell it to you now, maybe I'll go back tonight and try to learn a way that will work for you with what you've described to me. Like that to me is like, and that is why one-on-one tutoring in my eyes is the hands down the best teaching.
So much better.
Because the tutor will be able to understand you completely as well, and then be able to like manage their teaching style towards how you would learn it best.
So like to give a quick practical example, in my current role, I need to understand like a little bit the basics of like how APIs work and programs talk to each other. Yeah, sweet, fine. Do you think I could have found a YouTube video of someone that seems to know enough to be able to make a YouTube video? Because these people are just like, here's the
Mhm.
basics of APIs. I'm like, okay, so you've kind of half explained it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I wish someone could just sit down and go, here, let's just practically do
Yeah.
one. And then I can see, oh, right.
That's
okay,
how
got
it
it.
works. Or you can
Got
go,
it.
wait, I don't understand that part. And they go, oh, well, if you think about it this other way, maybe you'll understand it. Oh, that makes a bit more sense. How about I can explain it to you this way as well? Oh, that makes sense to
Mhm.
me, you know? Like,
yeah. Where
that's-
it's
yeah.
almost to the point where I'm like, once I understand this, I could probably make a more helpful YouTube video than someone that
Yeah.
understands it more than me.
Yeah, and
because
just
they just
can't
don't know how to
describe it, right? Yeah.
articulate it.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, I
and
could
that's
probably,
another thing, right? The skill of articulation and
not
things
just
like that, right? Like-
articulation, but it is a big skill to be able to, and it's a common thing, right? There's a quote where it's like, if you can't explain something as if they were a 5-year-old, you
Mhm.
don't understand the topic enough.
Well, that's I don't know if it's a false quote, but it's something that is often attributed to be a quote from Einstein, where he says, "If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well
Yeah.
enough."
And I think that's probably the exact same
Yeah,
quote
exactly.
where that
It's
comes from.
it's very very similar sentiment.
If you
right?
can't explain something in normal human language
Yeah.
without using scientific jargon,
without
then
getting
you
into
don't
the mumbo
understand it.
jumbo, right?
Yeah.
If you can't just make a simple analogy for it, you got to go learn more.
Yeah. And I completely agree
Yeah.
with that because
Because
I feel,
most things, when you break them down, can be told via simple analogy and
Yeah.
a simple
and
understanding.
this is true to outside of science,
Mhm.
just normal everyday life,
Yeah.
everyday jobs. If you're the person that can take a complex subject and put it into simple terms, you're gonna be respected
Uh-huh.
because people are gonna go, "Oh, this
Not
guy
even
really
that.
knows what
You're
he's
going to
talking about."
be a better teacher who
Big
will then
time.
be able to create more people
Big
who
time.
can do things well, you know, like
Better
depending on
teacher,
what the field
You're
is.
going to be better at selling something
Mhm.
that's complex because you'll know how to explain it to your
Yeah.
client where it makes
Yeah,
sense to
yeah.
them. Like it happens in so
Mhm.
many different fields
Yeah.
where I'm like, okay, I need to know these things, but I need to know them in a level where I can then break them down so that
Mhm.
somebody that is green to the space can go, oh, that's what we're
I
paying
get
for.
it. Yeah,
That's what
Yeah.
we're paying for. And you're like, yeah,
exactly.
because this is how it's going to help you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a very interesting subject.
Yeah.
I wanted to swing it
Yeah.
like really back around
Go
because
on.
we've gone on a
Go
big
right
scientific.
ahead.
But
Oh, yeah. I love that stuff, man.
we're
You
swinging.
know I love that stuff.
I know. We could fucking talk for hours about this stuff.
What do you got?
Swinging back around to the Australian dream, go to Canada
Uh-huh.
and do that.
Yeah.
Because you went later than
Mhm.
probably most people I know. So
Yeah.
at a later age.
Yeah, yeah.
But you would have seen a bunch of people that you made friends with. Is there a diverse age group or are they mostly
It's-
younger or
I'm still in the bracket,
Mhm.
definitely. But people more my age are usually generally kind of like going to become a manager and live there, you know, and stuff like
permanent?
that.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of people in my work environment, in the cafe that I work at, who are pretty much my age. Like there's a couple of people that are just a little bit older than me, and then a
Mhm.
couple of people that are just a little bit younger than me, you
Mhm.
know? So there's a lot of people that are like in my age, but there is a lot of like 19, 20-year-old age
Mhm.
group. And I feel like there is like a bit of a jump sometimes, and I feel like that might all be the little COVID era, right?
Yeah. That's
Like,
probably a big
because
factor.
I would have been there when I was
3 years
24,
earlier.
you
yeah.
know, like,
yeah.
and then I got there when I was 26, you know, so
2 years. Yeah. So then if you're talking to someone that's like, oh, maybe I want to do that,
Mhm.
whether they're just finishing high
Yeah.
school or uni or whatever,
Mhm.
what would be your advice? Because I feel like
Yeah.
you were a little bit more established and
Uh-huh.
set up financially.
Yeah. Well, I had the kind of silver lining benefit where I kept my job through COVID,
Mhm.
and then I knew this was like my mental plan because I was already halfway done my visa. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna save as much money as I can in these next 2 COVID years,
Mhm.
or like however long this takes, and then go with a bigger bank account. So that worked out pretty well for me. But if you can make it work, even just, and you're like younger, just do it.
Mm.
Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen is you fly back home and do what you were gonna do anyway.
Start
you know
back
what I mean?
where you left
Yeah.
off. Just don't get yourself in debt while you're
Yeah,
over there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just don't be an idiot, right?
Yeah.
But that like 1 or 2 years is going to give you so much experience, and you're going to see so many cool people and so many cool things that you may never otherwise see. And then you come back and, you know, there's people that are finishing university 2
Mhm.
years from now that will be in the exact same boat trying to look for those jobs and so on and so forth. And
But-
I had this kind of conversation with someone in our cafe last season who near the start of the season, she was kind of like getting cold feet, you know. She's like, oh, I kind of
wasting-
Yeah, she's like, I
yeah.
want to fly back home, and the job that I really want, they've just opened a position. And I'm like, that job's going to open another position. Like, I promise you, that
Mhm.
company is going to have to hire more people at one point. Like,
Yeah.
and if not that one very similar.
Mhm.
But once you leave here, there's like a 99% chance you're not going to come back and do anything like this again.
No.
So just do this season and then go and do that stuff. She did the season, ended up finishing it, absolutely loved it, went to Australia, went to the ski hills in Australia, absolutely loves it. Like
Also an
it's-
Australian?
Yeah,
Yeah.
an Australian as well. She's just like, she's now kind of gotten hooked to that life, right?
Yeah.
She had the cold feet at the start, but now she's having so much fun, you know? Like,
Yeah. And I think that's great. Like I said before that
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, do I have FOMO?
Yeah.
I didn't do that, but I
you
made sure
did some sick stuff, bro.
I made sure I
you
did-
were an inspiration for me as well doing all this stuff.
Well, I was about to say, I made sure I just did other types of traveling
Yeah.
and it cost me tons of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
So it like,
But you made it work.
yeah.
Even
Like,
if by the
whatever-
skin of your teeth. Like
Yeah.
you traveled the whole world, bro. Like
Oh yeah, there's no
You've seen
regrets.
places that I've not
I
even
d-
been close to.
That-
know what I
this is
mean?
why I
Like-
said I say to myself, do I have FOMO? I question myself
You-
because I don't.
You did something else.
I actually don't
know?
have FOMO.
Yeah.
I actually don't think it would have been for me. As cool as it is and sounds, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
But the thing is, this girl in question, right? If she had then decided by the end of the season, no, this isn't for me, fair enough.
Back at square one.
know?
And
Go back, look for those jobs that you were looking for, you know? Like,
what I was going to add there is that COVID was kind of like a perfect example of you've just lost 2 years, just keep going afterwards.
Yeah.
Whereas you could do that in a positive way.
Mhm.
COVID was kind of a negative way of losing 2 years.
Yeah.
Whereas you could do 2 years of going on
Yeah.
working and living in a ski resort and then have a positive experience and then come back and do
Mhm.
the same thing as
Yeah.
we did, starting everything
Yeah.
from scratch after
Exactly.
COVID.
Exactly. But yeah.
Especially the people that have like lost jobs and couldn't work through it.
Yeah.
You're going to recover regardless of what you do. And if it's for a positive experience,
Exactly.
just do it.
Exactly. And even for it being like a unique experience, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the time, and this is kind of why I want to get a lot of this like travel out of my system now, like getting in a van and putting a bed in it and driving through America. Because the way I see it, and like spending the money on that and spending the money on the fuel and fixing the car and like buying expensive tickets to Disneyland and Disney World, because if I really have to think about it logistically, I go, when will I ever be back in Florida to go to Disney World? Should I spend the $300 on a ticket, or should I go, nah, I want to save that $300?
And then in
But-
10 years' time, you'll be
yeah.
like, fuck, why
I've
didn't
never
I go to
found my
Disney
way
World?
back to
Yeah,
Florida.
Yeah,
I've never
exactly.
found my way back to Disney World. And you know, like honestly, the main Disney World, it wasn't worth the money in my eyes. Like,
Yeah.
but at least I went and saw it, you know? And if I didn't go and see it, here's the thing. If I didn't go and see it, it would be way better in my head and I would have way more regret going,
Exactly.
oh, Disney World would be so wicked. But now I've gone and
would
done
have
it.
been so wicked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the very last day that we did was at Disney thing. It was Disney Hollywood Studios. So they've got like a bunch of different parks that you have to get like individual tickets for. We did Hollywood Studios, and you probably, if you don't know me and you're listening to this, you probably know that I'm a bit of a nerd by now. I love Star Wars. and they recently bought Star Wars a couple of years ago,
Mm.
and they built Star Wars World.
Damn.
And compared to like all of the other like Disney World, like their main thing is like they make these thematic areas, right? And then they like go explore the area. There's a ride or two in it, like an experience or two in it. And Star Wars World blew my mind, man.
Really?
Like the production quality of it and stuff. Like you go in, like the Toy Story one, for example, you go in and there's like the Toy Story characters, but you can still kind of like see the rest of the park around and stuff. And like, it's cool. And then you go on the Star Wars one and it's designed like all of the buildings and like fake rocks and stuff are all around you as if you're on this planet in Star Wars, and you can't see anything else but like the fake curated trees to look like Star Wars and stuff. And it's like as if you're literally in the Star Wars world walking around. And then as a little cherry on top, they've got the actors coming around in all of the Star Wars costumes being like Kylo Ren from like the new movies. He's like one of the bad guys because you're like in this like bad guy, like the Empire occupied area. They've got like the little stormtrooper people going around and they like push you around a little bit and stuff. And they like go to interrogate you. Then this dude dressed up as like the main villain comes along and he's got his mask on and he's like talking to people and like singling them out. It's like, what the fuck? This is sick.
That's
Like,
so dope.
It's like, it was honestly so cool. Like out of everything else, all of the money we spent, that was worth it. Like,
Yeah. I think the only like comparable thing that I have would have been me being impressed by the Harry Potter part of Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Because
See,
that's probably the thing that I nerded out more about.
Exactly. Well, you're more into Harry Potter than I am for sure. And I think it's that same experience because the Harry Potter stuff, because I only did the like main Universal Park for the Fright Night. And they had the Diagon Alley area open in Fright Night, but it wasn't like full blast. You kind of just like
You didn't go any Harry Potter rides?
Not there. I went on Harry Potter rides because there's like the two Universal parks. There's like the main one and then I forget the names of them.
Yeah,
there's like the main one and then there's one with like way more rides instead of like thematic stuff. And we did the Harry Potter rides there. There was like a VR one that we were in with like huge screens in front of you and stuff. And then there was like a Hagrid's motorbike one that we did. That one was fun. That one was real fun.
We did one that like flew you through the castle and stuff. It was like half screens, but then
that's kind of
with
like
the dragon
VR one. Yeah, there's like the dragon and stuff. Yeah, that's probably the same one.
We were impressed with that. Both Jeremy and I. We went on it twice.
Yeah, I went on that one twice too.
Yeah,
that was cool.
we lined up straight away again.
Oh, nice.
Like let's see that again.
We did the Hagrid's motorbike one twice as well. That might not even have been built when you were there.
No, probably not.
But if you ever go back, that one's it's like a proper roller coaster style thing, and it's
sick.
really good. And it's like, I don't want to talk too much about it because I could spoil something about a roller coaster for you,
Wow.
which it was good. So
like what I was going to say before is like, I'm probably someone that doesn't need convincing of this.
Yeah.
Of like the just go and do it for the experience. Like, should I spend this money? Because for me, when I'm at home, I'm a little bit like there's a lot of people that I was friends with that would go out, have drinks out, pubs, clubs, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'll have a little taste of that. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend my money on that. But then when I go and travel, I'll travel big. And that's when I'll be like, all right, let's go out. Let's
just fucking
let's get a actually book a table at a club where it's like sick and you have the experience.
Well, that was like with New York. I was like, if I'm going to New York, we got like a Times Square apartment with
exactly.
And it was like spent
Should
way
we be
too
spending this?
But I did it and we had we get into it and it's like luxury. It's like you're the 1%. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And look at me. I was able to do it. I wasn't able to do it comfortably, like money wise, but I was able to do it. And now in 5-10 years time, when I've earned all that money back, I'm going to be like, fuck yeah, I did that. You know?
It's not going to make a difference to you.
I think I said this earlier today, but you kind of we went to Tomorrowland together and those tickets are pricey.
Oh, Especially
And-
when you miss the actual sale and you have to pay double to get
Yeah.
the ticket.
And I was still pretty early on in my making money days
Yeah.
at that time as well. And I was like, I'm already spending so much money going to Europe. And you're like, just fucking do it, bro.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that like kind of unlocked a bit of just spend money on experiences in my
Mhm.
head. You know what I mean? Because even though I'm not like, especially compared to you, I'm not like the biggest EDM guy. Like you're much more of an EDM junkie
Yeah.
than me. I enjoy EDM music, but you're definitely more of an EDM junkie than me. And I went there and it blew my mind, man. I loved that place.
Dude, like
I
there's,
would, like,
there's been nothing that's compared. And
Yeah.
like, not that I'm a big festival head, but I've
Mhm.
been to Ultra in Europe,
Yeah.
which is like, apparently you should go to it in the States where it's crazier.
Mhm.
But like, I went to Ultra Music Festival in Europe, in Croatia,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, like this feels
Right.
like a festival in Australia almost. Like
yeah.
the production level was nowhere near of
Mhm.
what you experience on main stage at Tomorrowland, or even just the Q dance stage, like that
Right.
hardstyle
Yeah,
stage.
Yeah. That was the one with the sword in it, right?
Yeah,
That was one of my favorites.
Dude, the noise level,
Yeah.
like it is just penetrates
And
your
then
body.
and then you walk 100 meters down and you're in a completely different space. Like, what the fuck?
It is wild. Like I don't think I'd ever do it again. But I'm like, that is like
Yeah.
the peak.
Yeah.
You experience that and you're like, okay, I've
Yeah.
finished festivals now. I've finished.
That was my first festival, bro.
First and only, yeah. If you go to any other festival, you'll
Yeah.
be disappointed.
I mean, I feel like the only ones that I'm really interested in would be ones with maybe like Aussie indie music or something in it, like smaller ones where I'm not expecting
Yeah,
Tomorrowland level.
completely
Like I
different
just want to go
experience.
for the
You're
musicians
going
that are there. You know
for
what
other
I mean?
reasons.
Yeah. But man, Tomorrowland, I like when I describe it to people, I say it's like a theme park festival, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
The main thing I always say to people that are like, oh, I think I want to go. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
just do it.
like it sounds weird to say,
Yeah.
but I'm like, it is just the loudest thing that you've ever heard.
Yeah.
But it's so loud.
They give you
Whilst-
earplugs at the front.
Yeah, it's so loud. But
Yeah.
then whilst being high quality audio,
Yeah.
where you're just like, my chest is
Like your
vibrating.
whole skeleton is going.
Yeah. It's
But you
just
can
so
still
good.
hear what's going on, like with music wise. You can't hear each other, but music wise.
Yeah.
What?
It's
What did
so
you say?
wild. So wild.
Oh, that was a good time.
That was a great time.
Oh. What are we on?
We're like an hour 20. Should we call it?
Oh, that's up to you. I'm nearly done here.
Yeah, look at
Um,
this. We're pumped through this leader. The only thing I wanted to discuss with you actually before we leave, because we're talking about like watching YouTube videos for science and stuff
Yep.
and blah, blah, blah. I kind of enjoy following people and then getting like short reel content. Like real
Okay.
content is obviously
Yeah.
crazy right now,
It's
but
the thing.
yeah,
Mhm.
but real content from trusted accounts that make long
Right.
form
Yeah.
videos, and then you get like short
Yeah.
snippets of that stuff. I'm very concerned about this entire AI era
Mm.
of people because I'm getting ads. People are spending big money on ads because I'm getting them every
Yeah,
day.
okay.
Every time I jump
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
Instagram, I'm getting ads for this. And it's the faceless YouTube accounts. Make money with a faceless YouTube account,
Right.
repurposing content and just pumping it
Yeah.
out on YouTube accounts. I'm like, this is cool for someone that's like, oh, I'm making money on YouTube. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm like, this is going to be disgusting for the consumer
Yeah.
and how much this is going to saturate the market with just AI produced
Mm-hmm.
content that's just it looks good, but it's just shit content. Like
Right.
it's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
shit, shallow
Mm.
information. And I feel like because of the way the social media algorithms are built, where you're not just seeing who you follow, you're seeing everything else that it thinks you want to see.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be it's going to be a challenge for the social media platforms to
Yeah.
try and mitigate that because
Yeah.
I reckon if you looked at a curve of the amount of uploads, and there is already probably trillions of gigabytes of video on YouTube alone, but I reckon the upload curve is
It's just
probably
gonna
just
jump up.
skyrocketing
Yeah.
again of just repurposed
Yeah.
bullshit AI content.
Well, maybe Google with YouTube, for example, maybe they could fight that with an AI that goes, this is bullshit content.
Yeah.
That's just getting repurposed. Like,
yeah,
I don't
and
know.
I think
Maybe like because it's like AI is also such a new kind of emerging technology. Like obviously it's been around for a very long time for the people that are like working on it.
Mhm.
But for consumers, it is such a new emerging field and
Yeah.
technology that I'm not really extremely like confident in anything that I currently believe on what might happen with it or how
Yeah.
we will deal with it. Like I have a lot of things that I could and can say, but nothing that I say about AI, just as like a disclaimer, I don't know if I'll agree with myself in 2 years.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
None of what I say
yeah.
is even educated.
Yeah, because like I have no idea. Like in 2 years' time, maybe some ridiculous shit happens with AI that I could have never foreseen, and then I'm like, well, now I have to completely change my position,
Yeah.
you know, on things that I thought.
But I think you're absolutely right. I think the only way you're going to be able to combat it is with another intelligent system that can
Yeah.
pick up on the bullshit being created. Because another side concern, like my concern is only just the repurposing
Yeah.
and whacking together shit things just to get
Well,
views.
Warren Buffett reckons AI scams are the next giant industry, right?
Huge.
Like
Huge.
and
AI
I completely
scams,
agree. Like,
if you're in a position where the only way you're making money is scams,
Mhm.
and then suddenly you get this
you get
AI
a tool
that can
mimic voices,
mimic
and,
voices,
you know, like personalize itself to people immediately. You
call
know?
someone
Yeah,
and just speak in their
yeah.
family member's voice.
After like not even that. Speak with someone, and after like 2 forms of dialogue, start engineering its speech to work with this person better. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
It's scary. And then the other facet of that is like the fakery of it. So like you can now look up a video of I'm just trying to think of a high level example here. Like there's an AI that has created an entire episode as if Andrew Tate was on the Joe Rogan Experience.
yeah.
Would never
Well,
happen.
I've seen a funny take on that on my Instagram where they get AI to generate like YouTubers and streamers to like do like these crazy in-depth educational videos that they've never done.
Yeah.
And it's just like the person's like, you can tell because it's just the person like sitting there by their computer being like, well, this and this is exactly how this and this works, and then you do this and this and apply this math to it and blah blah blah, and it's just like a AI deep fake of the streamer.
And like simple things like that, where the long form content, people that are above a certain intelligence level are going to go, yeah, that's fake. But in short form video, for instance, there was a recent example of a clip of Jennifer Aniston at like a round table sort of scenario. And she's like, how do you think I stay in shape at my age? And she's talking, and it's all completely fake. And someone like pulled out the original clip. She's talking about something not at all to do with her
AI
diet
just
and
takes
herself.
her like inflection of voice and stuff, right?
And her body movements, keeps that the same, changes her mouth,
just a little
puts
bit,
whatever the fuck they want her to say.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Deep fakes are getting scary, bro.
and dude, the thing had like millions of views.
Yeah.
So people are going, oh, that's how Jennifer Aniston stays in shape. And the shit that it was regurgitating was false nutritional information.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, anyone that knows nutrition and how weight loss works and fat loss is going to be like, this is false.
The way that I lose weight is just to like eat this kind of oil all the time in all of my food.
Like that kind of bullshit. And I'm like,
I just use avocado oil and now I've lost 20 kilos.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, maybe if you started eating less calories at the same time.
I use avocado oil only and completely changed my entire exercise routine and diet.
Yeah. I started just eating avocado oil, but also just eating way less.
Yeah.
Like it's scary shit.
Oh, it definitely is. There's a lot of stuff. I feel like because in my mind, AI is kind of like an emergent tool. similar, not the same, but similar to, for example, computers and
Mhm.
computing power.
Mhm.
Because imagine a couple of decades ago, we're sitting here having a chat about, bro, people can order a computer and bring it into their house and start doing so much stuff with it. Like scammers, that's going to help them so much. You
They
know what I
can
mean?
send out
Yeah.
1,000
The
emails
internet?
at once.
Dude. Yeah. You know
That's
what I
going
mean?
to scam
And
everyone.
to me, AI is a similar tool where, of course, you can be extremely skeptical about it, but I have to believe that humanity as a whole and like our society as a whole will figure out how to not only regulate it, but properly use it
Mm.
to benefit more people than it harms. Which I think is the only thing I can, in a world where if you really look at it, it is just kind of chaos with a
Mm.
couple of countries and a couple of people trying to structure it in ways that benefits lots of people. You know, like we're lucky enough to live in a first world country and like travel through first world countries where that is the case, where we have government bodies that, although we can complain about politicians and corruption and blah, 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 in a general sense, they're still creating infrastructure that helps us in our day-to-day
Mhm.
life. And all in all, if you look at the planet as a whole, it's just still like a big, like, melting pot of chaos and people just trying to get their own way and all of that, because like we're saying with scams, like they come from this part of the world and
Mhm.
infect like these parts of the
Mhm.
world and stuff like that, and they like hook people in. And AI is just a tool that will be used by those people. It will be used by terrorist organizations. It will be used by scammers. It will be used by these, but it will also be used by us. And it will
Yeah.
also be used by software engineers that have good intentions, and it will be used by citizens that have good intentions and governments that have, you know, other people's needs in mind and things like that.
And prime
Yeah.
example.
And even if it is primarily for like a profit-based scenario, as long as they're thinking this gets me profit because it will benefit people, which is
Mhm.
like a lot of what we rely capitalism on for. We go, yeah, capitalism's great because it incentivizes someone to seek profit by giving us a service or
Mhm.
product that will benefit us. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
if you think about it,
yeah,
even just people with the intention of weeding out that stuff. So, for instance, the large corporations that are hosting all this stuff,
Mhm.
like YouTube, for instance,
Yeah.
they're going to have to think into the
Exactly.
future and go,
That's
how
what
do
I
we
mean, like-
mitigate this? And that's going to be also using AI. So I
Yeah.
agree with you
and so
in terms of
there's going to be Google software engineers that are right now sitting in an office figuring out how to use AI
to combat AI.
Yeah, to make it end up being a better experience rather than a worse one.
The
You know what I mean?
analogy I
Like-
can think of is computers came out, the internet came out,
Mhm.
viruses.
Yeah.
Now there's huge companies that are antivirus
Yeah,
softwares.
exactly.
So these guys are going to be
So there's gonna
anti AI
And it's-
fake detection
and it's
softwares.
always fighting fire with fire, right?
Yeah.
There's a really cool little. I've just been reminded. There's this really cool. I read this a long time ago,
Mm.
but it stuck with me because I loved the idea. I read this headline of a news story, and it's like Japanese police now like capturing drones delivering drugs in Tokyo, and then I
Nice.
read into it a little bit, and it's like when drones became a thing.
Yeah.
Like the Tokyo Mafia, I guess, like the Tokyo criminal underground that's selling drugs, went, oh, the police aren't tracking drone activity. Let's start delivering our drugs with drones instead of people
Yeah.
because the police can track our people. They start delivering drugs with drones, and then the police made a drone department to start
Yeah.
tracking and capturing the illegal drones.
Especially because, like, if you think about it, like, oh, if I'm flying a drone, even if they capture my drone,
Yeah.
how are they tracing the signal back to my remote control?
Exactly.
They're
Yeah.
not.
Well, there's a
As soon
a
as the
thing,
drone
right?
gets
yeah, you
captured,
can just fucking
destroy
throw it in
the
the bin.
remote.
Yeah, yeah, melt
Done.
it. you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, so that's like another benefit for that. But I just like I was captivated by the whole like futuristic sound of it back then. I was like, oh, that's cool. There's a little
Yeah.
drone warfare
Create a
in Tokyo
department,
City.
yeah.
You know,
Create a
Like-
department to fight the drones.
Yeah, imagine being a police officer being like, yeah, I run the drone anti-drone drug air force in Tokyo. You know what I mean? Like,
All right, let's wrap it
Right.
up. But give me a quick spiel. What's next? Because I'm assuming we're not going to have a chance to do another one in a while.
Yeah.
'Cause you're doing another season.
Mm-hmm. Well,
What's
like
the
I said,
plans?
I want to, as like the thinking I have now is as long as I can, I want to kind of keep up the traveling. Just so
Smart.
I can kind of like, it's so much fun. I can do it right now. I'm privileged enough to live in a place where I've been able to set myself up and in a family that's been able to support me so I can set myself up to have these experiences. So I'm doing another ski season in Canada, and then I kind of want to go do a ski season in Japan. Just change up the culture like entirely, and they're meant to have like really good
Same season, right?
mountains,
Both
right?
Northern Hemisphere. So
Yeah,
you'd
same
have to do
seasons.
the year
so
after.
I'd have to come back next year, do my visa for Japan, go to Japan that winter, and then I kind of want to do a Europe season again, just to kind of like capitalize on the position I'm in where like I have dual citizenship with Germany,
Yeah.
right? So I can go to Germany and get a passport. You know what I mean? So I kind of want to do a season there, but I guess we'll see. That's like 2 years
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah.
future. It's hard to like plan these
It's
things
3
out.
years ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Nice.
Yes.
Well, we did it. We
We did it.
finally did an episode with
Cheers.
David. Thanks everyone for listening, and see you in the next one.
oh, wunderbar.